What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming at you another community shoutcast for the Australia Esports Cup. We're loading into round 5, the last round of the Group B playoffs between Seb+Co up against Next Tier. The winner of this series will advance into the next stage, with the loser, unfortunately, will be eliminated. So Seb+Co opening with a bat right at first ban. I believe in game number 1, which was the first series they casted today, they also open with a bat right at the first ban, so they really don't like playing against the isolation power of the bat right. It's a bat right very similar to a Clockwork Goblin. They're initiation heroes that rely on isolating a single target, so Clockwork does this with the Hookshot Battery Assault, Batrider does this with the Flaming Lasso into the Firefly Skyhook combination with the Force Staff. So it looks like Next Tier actually opting to ban out Shadow Shaman. I'm not going to be too impressed, as they lost their last series against Oztotes off the back of some incredibly impressive performance coming out from Abyssalis on that support position as Shadow Shaman. It looks like Seb+Co opening with the Respect ban. Phoenix as Next Tier, I believe it was... might have been fucking Damo. No, never mind. That's gonna be the other team. It's Desky, their offlaner, who played a fantastic Phoenix. He went for some MVP Phoenix drive-by plays at the Dagon 5. Next year also opening to ban with the Faceless Void. But all these teams really don't like playing against the Void, even though it's actually quite easy to deal with the Void inside that Chronosphere. Just because when Void, every single time Void chronos, he has to kill a high priority target inside that Chronosphere. Otherwise, you lose a significant amount of momentum as far as the team fight's concerned. And so a way to counteract the Void is to mess with him during the Chronosphere. So heroes such as the Vengeful Spirit being able to swap out a high priority target and exchanging it for a low priority target. Invoker with the Cold Snap Tornado combo. Or even somebody like the Omni Knight, if you get the Guardian Angel off in time, makes it very difficult for the Void to be very effective. So next year, opening with the Juggernaut first pick. Juggernaut, currently the most trending carry hero in the competitive scene, owing to the fact that the Blade Dance, with it being buffed by 5% at all levels, and now it's 20% crit. Chance to crit at level 1 and a 35% chance to crit at level 4, so it actually makes it the most effective crit in the game, or at least on par with the level 2, level 3 Phantom Assassin Coup de Grace. So we are going to be seeing the Tide first pick coming up from Seb+Co, most likely going to be played by fucking Damo, the offlane player for his team. Seb+Co, they actually took quite an impressive victory, even though they were quite far behind, off the back of an incredibly impressive Tide Hunter and Necrophos combination coming out from Seb+Co. So happy he did whiff a fair few Reaper sites where he wasn't able to execute somebody, and Seb+Co, they really did sit on their hands, or they should have been pushing, but eventually they're able to pull through. Next here, also going with the Axe. Axe, a fantastic initiation hero that provides you the macro advantage in the sense that you could lane Axe against Tide, even an offlane of the offlaner, since next year probably want to look to go for an aggro tri-lane with the Juggernaut, so that means that Axe will completely crush Tide in lane, and Tide can't get close to Axe without eating the counter helix, and once Axe picks up level 2, Tide Hunter has to watch out. Level 2 is always going to be the critical point for Axe, from when he goes from being a nuisance to being an absolute terror, just because he can walk up to a creep wave, tank the creep wave, Berserker Call you, he's going to get 2 or 3 counter helix procs, drop you to about half HP, and look to continually pressure you out of the lane. And of course, Axe with that Berserker's Call, like, he gives you that guaranteed AoE lockdown for you to be able to deal with the Tide Hunter. Berserker's Call is actually an exceptionally powerful spell, 3.2 second CC ability and 300 AoE. Skywrath Mage can be picked up by Seb+Co, so they are building themselves to have some kind of contingency against the Axe, and Skywrath lanes very well against Axe. As far as the laning stage is concerned, it's because Axe, with the amount of physical immunity he has with the starting base armor, since he's usually going to be starting the Ring of Protection as well as the Stealth Shield, Skywrath Mage is just able to continually harass him out of the lane with the Arcane Bolt and the Mystic Flare, so if you don't get Skywrath Mage inside the Berserker's Call, Axe is going to get... he's going to be eating that Mystic Flare, could potentially be taking a death, especially with the Ancient Seal. And the most important factor about Seb+Co picking up the Skywrath Mage is you deprive the enemy team from picking up the Skywrath. Just because Skywrath's Juggernaut, exceptionally powerful combination, Concussive Shot, Ancient Seal into the Blade Fury, pretty much sets up an easy kill on basically every hero. Skywrath also works well against Tide in lane, you're able to harass him out with the Arcane Bolt. Just because Skywrath Mage isn't contingent on his right-click damage compared to Titan 2, where Titan is dependent on using the Anchor Smash debuff and the Kraken Shell to really keep himself alive. Skywrath Mage is highly effective at dealing with an offlane Tide, so it's a good thing that Seb+Co actually opted to pick it up. Also banning out the Silencer, just because Silencer disables the counter-initiation capability of the Tide Hunter, so it means that if you ever initiate against Seb+Co and you have a Silencer, once you initiate, you then pop the Global Silence. They're now sitting there running around like headless chickens. Tide can't do anything until the Global Silence wears off, at which point, because you've got an Axe on your team, next year already taken 2-3 heroes. As a Seb+Co, they're forced to disengage, and Axe runs around popping off heads. So now we've got the Pandarian Brewmaster ban coming out from Seb+Co. It's the Respect ban, as I believe it was Easy Peasy Steel series, plays an absolutely phenomenal Pandarian Brewmaster. Excellent microplay coming up from him. Very rare to see Pandarian Brewmaster, especially at this lower tier of games, played so well. was able to utilize the Aghanim Scepter to pretty good effect. He did whiff 1 or 2 collabs, but I mean, the grand scheme of things, he was able to pull out a pretty impressive Pandarian Brewmaster. Now we've got the Invoker and the Witch Doctor ban coming up from next year, so KQT's favorite hero to pick and favorite hero to ban in that single banning stage. Invoker, of course, provides you a massive amount of utility, especially since some players, you usually want to ban Invoker against a team that's got a good Invoker player, just to take him out of the pool, since Invoker provides you such a massive advantage in both the early as well as the late stages of the game. Whether you go for the Quas Wex build, he gives you a massive amount of team fight, in which case Tornado EMP into the Ravage, or if he goes for the Quas Exort, provides you that execution power, much more powerful laning presence, and of course he provides you a ridiculous amount of either team fight or pushing capability if he chooses to go for the Necro 3 Zoo Invoker build, or if he chooses to go for something more like the ganking style build of the Yule Scepter into the Aghanim Scepter, which we saw earlier today. I believe it was Jello Shots from Ostotes, played an absolutely phenomenal Quas Exalt Invoker, completely crushed the lane against the Templar Assassin, which is a matchup that the Templar should have won in the early stages. Now next tier, opting to go to Rubik, and Rubik's a great counter pick to the Tide. It means that Titan is forced to go for a perfect Ravage every single time. He has to catch Rubik inside the Ravage. Otherwise, if he doesn't catch Rubik inside the Ravage and Rubik has a blink, if Rubik's ever able to steal and return a Ravage, even if he only does it once or twice, that could be the difference maker between next tier being able to pull out the game and then being the loser. Because Seb+Co, because they're going to be initiating with the Ravage, the counter initiation Ravage from Rubik's going to be that much more effective, because the aggressing team, when they tend to the belligerent team or the aggressor, when they tend to go on the attack, they tend to clump, and so the counter initiation Ravage coming out from Rubik's, guaranteed to hit at least 4 heroes, can really mess up Seb+Co's lineup, especially since you've got very fragile heroes like Skywrath, who if he's caught by a Ravage, he's pretty much dead. He's not going to be able to do anything. Axe will just be able to walk up to him, smack him once, dunk him down. Next tier, opening with their 4th pick, as Seb+Co actually opting to go for a Legion Commander. So we could be seeing a Legion Commander tri-lane or a Legion Commander mid. Legion Commander, she's got a lot of utility. She's kind of like a Swiss Army knife in the sense that you can put her in a lot of lanes. She does have a good enough toolkit that she can do quite well in the mid lane, utilizing the overwhelming odd spam. She does very well in the off-lane matchup, and even as a safe lane carry, she's not too bad. The only issue with the Legion Commander, and the number one issue of her, is that fundamentally locks her from some competitive matches. The reason why she's got a 40% win rate is she's very, very dependent on you snowballing and you getting a lot of early successful duels. If you're unable to do that, she does taper off quite quickly, and in which case she's just going to be performing a very similar role to the Axe, that of Blink and Initiate to draw fire. Unfortunately, Legion Commander, if she's playing from behind, not going to be anywhere near as effective as an Axe, because Axe at least provides that AoE lockdown and the ability to potentially turn a fight with the Cutting Blade. So Axe is a hero that if you're playing and both teams are even, he can be the deciding factor. If you're playing, you've got an advantage, you win so much more, because you're going to decisively take every fight. You're going to take no prisoners just because give you that movement speed to be able to finish off their entire team. You could chase them down, force them to take more casualties than they'd like. Otherwise, if you're playing Axe from behind, worst case scenario, he's there to provide some solid initiation or counter initiation. So he's always going to be quite a versatile and powerful pick. Actually, wouldn't be too surprised if I see Axe being nerfed by having his Cutting Blade mana cost slightly increased, or Axe receiving a nerf to his mana pool. That's the only way I could really see Ice Frog balancing Axe will still keep a competitively viable hero. Lion ban now coming out from next tier. So they want to ban out support heroes. They could deal with the Templar by turning onto a frog. Also to deal with the Juggernaut and the Axe, just for that burst pick-off power, as well as the sheer amount of lockdown capacity that you have. Skywrath Maze does pretty well against Juggernaut, because when Juggernaut's running towards you, Mask of Madness active, you could silence some of the Ancient Seal. Suddenly Juggernaut's looking for he's going to take a huge damage from your Arcane Bolt. And you could even just stand your ground with the Mystic Flare. We're going to be seeing the Centaur War in the ban actually coming out from Seb+Co. Even though the Axe team they could also decide to do a dual lane and pick up a much more reliable offlaner, most likely because they're seeing the Tide or the Legion Commander. Axe does very well against both of them. Against Legion, it's only a 60-40 advantage to Axe, whereas against the Tide, probably about 65-35. Legion Commander's got the pressy attack to keep herself sustained. She's got a way to influence creep wave without being directly there with the overwhelming odds. Actually, Legion Commander v Axe is probably 55-45, just because if Legion Commander gets a good overwhelming odds off on the Axe, as he clumps with the creep wave, he can take enough damage. Legion Commander can play very aggressively against the Axe, and Legion Commander, of course, makes it very gankable. You do see the Legion Commander picked up in the offlane. You tend to go for boots and Orb of Venom as quickly as possible. It gives you a lot of early game aggression, and Legion Commander's got excellent chasing capacity. The next tier, deliberating for their 5th pick, most likely going to be an offlane or a support. They do have that flexibility in that regard. They could decide to pick up an offlane and have the Axe jungle, in which case you've got the Juggernaut Rubik lane, which isn't the best. It's not too bad, just because you've got a lot of killing power. It's a very powerful lane in pubs, where dual lanes tend to be a lot more common. You lift into spin, and then once the spin wears off, you get a few more right clicks and a Fate Bolt, so not too bad killing power, and Rubik could also be played quite defensively. The issue with Rubik as a support hero is he provides you a lot of crowd control and a lot of defensive capability, he just lacks the damage. That's the reason why support duos like the Rubik Ancient Apparition or the Rubik Skywrath Mage work so well. As the Ancient Apparition or the Skywrath provide the damage and Rubik provides the lockdown, Templar Assassin going to be hard countered by Seb+Co picking up the Viper. So very surprised they went for the Templar Assassin pick. Very ambitious Templar pickup, considering Viper's still in the pool, considering Venomance is still in the pool. There are a lot of heroes that can counteract the Templar Assassin quite heavily. And as we've seen in every single game, if Templar Assassin gets a bad start, she becomes completely useless very quickly, because all she provides you is damage. And even then, as far as damage is concerned, she has to be ahead to be able to deal that damage. Templar Assassin, she makes up for her weaknesses, but she's a very rigid pick in the sense that she doesn't give you much flexibility, but when she works exceptionally well. So in this case, with the Viper pickup, Viper will destroy Templar in that mid lane matchup. Next tier also picked up a Weaver, so it looks like we are going to be seeing an off-lane Weaver, Juggernaut in conjunction with the Rubik, Templar Assassin mid, and Axe jungle. Whereas Seb+Co, they're going to be going for the Legion Commander as well as the Skywrath Mage in the dual lane, Sand King in the jungle. Tidehunter are going to be the offlaner, and Viper are going to be in the mid lane. Well, Sand King will be in the tri lane as well, but most likely going to be spending a fair amount of time that jungle just to make sure they could get that early blink dagger. Sand King's a very greedy 4-position support, but of course in this case, because you know it's going to be a jungling axe most likely, you could get away with that greed. It's very difficult for them to try to contest the Sand King in the jungle when you've only got one support, and the support's not going to be leaving the lane. They're going to introduce the players from both teams. Adobe Reader going to be the 4-position Sand King. Looks like he's actually starting with the courier, so instead of going for the boots build, which is very common, does give Sand King a lot of he gives him the guaranteed burrow strike at 1. He's actually choosing to go for much more utility oriented items. This is much more of a greedy build than the Sand King, because it means that you're depending on the enemy player making a misplay so you can actually land that level 1 burrow strike, or otherwise it means that you're going to play passively until you get level 2, level 3 burrow strike. Fucking Damo going to be the stand-in. He's going to be the Tidehunter in the offlane. Happy going to be the 2 as the Viper. Going for a very defensive stat-heavy build, just give himself a lot of durability in lane. I really like the starting Ring of Protection build on the Viper, just because Viper's only weakness, as far as survivability is concerned, is just low armor. Just because you've got that corrosive skin, you do mitigate a lot of magic damage. We've got Bubblegun, going to be the 1 as the Legion Commander. Q Janice, otherwise known as My Document, is going to be the 5 as a Skywrath Mage. Skywrath is a great 5 to run with the Sand King, because you've got that synergy between the two, concussive shot set up for the burrow strike, and also Skywrath can afford to buy all the support items, leaving Sand King to start with boots first, if you want to go for that much more aggressive route. Meanwhile, for the boys next tier, Desky, that drafter going to be the offlane Weaver. He's going to be having his work cut out for him, especially if Hugh Janus decides to start with sentries. Unfortunately, they didn't start with sentries, so he should be able to find the bounty rune. Happy is aware of him though, and Desky, massive misplay coming from him. Hugh Janus actually skilled up the concussive shot. Desky would have taken the death there. Concussive shot into the burrow strike, just because that level 1 Sakuchi's got such a massive cooldown. But looks like Desky's greed wasn't punished, and Chewy's actually able to find the bounty rune. So bounty rune being given to both players on next tier. What is Love actually going for a bit of a defensive observer ward placement? You usually want to play an aggressive observer ward there when you're laning against the solo offlaner, just because you know exactly where Tide is. You know when he's rotating in to go for the bounty rune. You also know that when supports are TPing in to maybe set up a gank. So that's usually the rune you want to go for. I mean, that being said, the nice thing about this rune is it does give you vision of ward, as well as acting as a defensive ward or an aggressive ward. The Tide's hanging around the jungle. If you're the offlaner, you don't want to go for this ward, because it's going to be dewarded. Otherwise, if you don't think it's going to be dewarded, it's a very powerful ward. The Chewy going to be the 1, What is Love going to be the 4 as the Rubik, although in this case he's forced to be the 5 as Carry Me Senpai. Going to be the 4-position Axe. He's going to be looking to stack and pull and clear out the jungle camps very effectively. Easy peasy, going to be the Templar Assassin in the mid lane. Looks like he's actually doing pretty well, as Happy doesn't have a single last hit to his name. Very surprised Happy's playing so passively in this lane, or rather trying to play too aggressively. He really needs to prioritize the last hits and denies in order to shut down Easy peasy. Especially since Viper, well, that Nethertoxin can actually go blow for blow against the Templar. But just because you've got more, just enough base damage to be able to out CS the Templar Assassin, even though he's got Refraction in the early stages. And it also means that you've got the Poison Orb to break multiple instances of Refraction. So Easy peasy actually holding on to his Refraction, as he knows he's going to have that poached off. Might actually wait till he gets level 3 before he uses Refraction again, give himself that bonus damage. A bit more mana efficiency. Desky, let me the offlaner having his work cut out for him as Bubblegun. Looks like he utilized that overwhelming odds to apply a little bit of harassment pressure. Desky should probably look to go for a point in the Swarm early on, because that gives him a massive amount of killing power against heroes like the Skywrath Mage. Weaver's she's a very greedy offlane hero. I personally don't like Weaver in that 1v3 role, just because he really excels at getting ahead early on and keeping that lead, because you can play incredibly aggressively, especially if you've got support heroes that enable you to do so, such as a Viper, or even something like an Ogre Skywrath Mage combo. Otherwise, or something like an Ancient Apparition. Looks like we've got a very greedy pub ward being dropped, and looks like What is Love, he should know that's being dropped. He saw Tide walk through that fucking demo. If he checked his inventory spot, he had a safety ward there before, now he suddenly doesn't. Most likely going to mean that he dropped that safety ward in that region. Otherwise, it's going to be placed there or there. So these tend to be the most common safety ward placements. Why the support player tends to place a sentry there, so that way this amount of vision they have to be the D ward. fucking Demo should be having his work cut up from against Chewy. Looks like Chewy's actually going for a bit more of a conventional Juggernaut build. She's going to go for a point stats. This is a very old school Juggernaut build. A lot of players still swear by this, and because Chewy's opted to go for Quelling Blade and Stealth Shield, he has to go for a point in stats if he wants to be the combo at level 6. Otherwise, you're actually much better off going for a point in crit or a point in healing ward early on, but because he chose to go for a much more farm-oriented build, the Quelling Blade and Stealth Shield, as opposed to starting with stats, something that usually Juggernaut players like to do. So you see some Juggernaut players even start with a couple of circlets, or start with a lot of GG branches early on, so that way they can afford to skip that point in stats and look to play build a lot more aggressively at the early point in crit. So Chewy most likely going to be maxing out the Blade Fury. Does make a lot of sense against the Tide because you've got that magic burst damage not going to be controlled by the Anchor Smash or by the Kraken Shield, so you've got a way to be able to kill fucking Demo, especially with the Ruby coming in from the side. What is love? Should be able to set up a few kills down, easy peasy. He's winning in terms of last hits. Oh no, never mind. Happy's able to finally recover, and so this is the matchup that I was expecting. Happy's quite crushing the Templar Assassin in the mid lane matchup. Went for the second point, the Poison Orb. Makes a lot of sense just because when against a Templar, you really want to prioritize lane control above all else, and going for that second point orb really mitigates to the fact that Viper is a very slow hero. So it compensates for your low mobility. It gives you a fair amount of burst damage, a fair amount of sustained damage as well for you to be able to harass easy peasy, just because you can't afford to let the Templar have an easy lane. If Templar gets a good lane and is able to snowball from there, your support's going to be constantly picked off, especially since Skywrath can't do anything to deal with easy peasy, and Templar is going to become a carry hero in her own right, makes it very difficult for the rest of your team to fight against her. So that's why you have to try to prioritize shutting down the Templar's farm. Viper, he doesn't need nearly as much farm as the Templar to be as effective, so you can prioritize denies over last hits, you can prioritize harassing easy as much as possible, just because if you're able to shut them down now, it's going to delay Templar's window of effectiveness. So that's going to give your support enough time for them to not get instantly destroyed by the Templar when she just runs at them. Desky, hunting himself inside the tree line. Hugh Janus, no idea where he is. Looks like they do finally scout him out, but Adobe Rita, unfortunately, went for the short range hook. The Virus Strike, he could have actually aimed it there. Would have been a fine. So this is the weakness of the Sankey. They do have that Sentry Ward available, so now Desky, but be very cautious. Hugh Janus, looks like he actually went for a point in the Ancient Seal early on. Would have actually maybe considered going for a point in the Concussive Shot to try to set things up, but that being said, I suppose Desky can instantly disjoint that. So Desky sends his ground throws a few right clicks, and Hugh Janus to be taking a death if Desky really wanted to do so. W Reader, waiting in around the sound, he's got that level 1 Burrow Strike, maybe looking to try to set up a kill. And of course, this is the issue of not going for boots first on the Sanking. It means you can't gank reliably because your Weaver's got more mobility than you. It also means that you're going to be pretty much useless until you pick up level 3. It means that at level 3 you're forced to go for a second point in Burrow Strike, since otherwise you want to ideally go for a second point in Sandstorm to make sure that you could actually farm jungle quite efficiently, and so that way you could farm something like a 9 to 10 minute Blink Dagger, which can mean that you could be the primary initiator of your team, just in case of your Tide Hunter. So if fucking Damo has a really rough lane, it means that you could take over the primary initiation role. Desky, he's going to be having his work cut out from his offlane, especially the Sentry Ward now available. Hugh Janus should really be playing a lot more aggressively. Desky can't rely on Sakuchi anymore, so Hugh Janus is playing way too passive. He really should be constantly in his face, spamming out the Arcane Orb, forcing Desky to back himself away, lest he eat that Arcane Bolt and take a massive amount of damage. Easy peasy with that Haste Rune, maybe looking to go for a play against Happy, but this is going to be a massive mistake if he chooses to do so, as Karimi Senpai, leading the charge, throws out that Battle Hunger, and personally not a big fan of Battle Hunger and early levels, just because it doesn't really give you that much value. Especially since you can't afford to waste the mana. Happy could be taking a death. Melt Strike comes in. Viper Strike can be interrupted by What Is Love. And with that, Happy should be feeding First Blood. Good rotation coming in from What Is Love and Karimi Senpai. Being able to set that up. And Karimi Senpai from that First Blood, actually very close towards that Blink Dagger. He should be finding it in the next 3 minutes at the rate that he's farming. So we are going to be seeing some like a 9-minute Blink Dagger coming online. That can be quite a critical factor because fucking Damo, he's reasonably close towards that Blink Dagger if he decides to rush it. Otherwise, if he chooses to go for the Arcane Boots, which tends to be the much more preferred build order for the Tide because it gives you more flexibility with your mana, it means you can afford to spam out your Anchor Smash every time it's off cooldown. So it gives you that early initiation advantage, especially against a lineup such as Seb+Co, which is dependent on them being the snowball. Bubblegun should be taking death. Desky a few more right clicks. He's got Sakuchi coming with cooldown fairly soon. Bubblegun, that being said, that press the attack working wonders. And Desky coming to this. Steel Series is also there to help out that side trap. Desky is able to find that kill. This is a kill he really shouldn't have found. They can't afford to give Weaver his kill just because he's such a greedy offlane hero. Adobe Reader looking to go play very aggressively. Hugh Janus, one more right click, especially Desky there, for the follow through. Hugh Janus should be taking death as Desky finds one, but easy peasy should be taking death from this. You've got the Viper there, he goes in, sits there and Mel, but Desky says, mate, they've got a Sentry Ward. How do you think they've been harassing this entire game? Desky throws his own life away. He should have just ran back the other way. He saw that there was a Sentry Ward there because it kept hitting him through the meld. It's a massive misplay coming out from him, underestimating the damage potential of the Viper. Viper actually choosing to go for 4 points in Poison Orb. Personally, I really dislike this build. I feel like 2 points is the most efficient number for the Viper. Any more points into the Poison Orb that early on, you actually get more damage by going for more points in Nether Toxin, or by you get more sustain by going for more points in the Corrosive Skin, because Corrosive Skin means that you could disregard the majority of Juggernaut's Blade Fury. Means that you don't have to worry about the Fade Bolt. I suppose in this case, because they don't really have that much magic damage, you could actually opt to go for a very aggressive build and choose to go for more points in Nether Toxin. But even then, the Corrosive Skin, the fact that it works on auto attacks and it snares them, it's quite a potent snare, especially if you get locked to a man mode or a right click war. So happy. A little bit of a misbuild coming up from him. Would have preferred even going, if you decide to go for more points in Nether Toxin, would have been a lot more effective. It gives him a ridiculously high amount of damage potential, especially against Weaver, since Weaver's got god-awful armor and stack growth. Easy peasy, now being left alone against Hugh Janus. Easy peasy could choose to dive Hugh Janus. There's nothing Hugh Janus can do. Side trap being placed, he could have actually placed it a little bit further. Hugh Janus, he knows that side trap's there though, so he's going to be forced to back himself away. I suppose side trap there would be the furthest you could place it without being dewarded. While that's happening, looks like Carry Me Senpai will be picking up that 9-minute Blink Dagger at the rate that he's farming, just because he got, I believe, 350 GPM. 330, so he should be around that mark. Slightly inefficient, usually Axe in jungle, 350 to 360. Chewy should be the final kill against Falcon Damo. He doesn't want to ravage because he's not going to hit anybody with it. One more right click and there we go. Chewy's able to find it with that Blade Fury. Looks like he's going towards the Aghanim Scepter build, and this is the very old school Juggernaut build. I like this decision making coming up from him. He realizes that if he's going for the Aghanim Scepter build, you have to go pick it up very early, and you have to try to end the game very early. So because Seb+Co, they have got a lineup that favors the mid game, picking up the Aghanim Scepter early on gives the boys from next tier that mid-game assurance. They've got that item that lets them fight very early on. Juggernaut with a very early Aghanim Scepter, say around the 15 to 16 minute mark, which actually, he might even finish on the 14 minute mark, the rate that he's farming. It's going to be quite a decisive factor. Having that 70-second Omni Slash as well as that free level up pretty much means that if you Omni Slash someone, they're dead. So every single fight, every 70 seconds, you can kill somebody. Every time you kill somebody, you can take a tower. Would actually like to see Chewy skill up a few points in that healing ward. So the second point in healing ward's the most efficient, because past that point, you're over-healing. Good Blink initiation coming from Carry Me Senpai. Bubblegum should be taking it out. One more right click should be enough to be a dunk him, and Carry Me Senpai. Excellent performance coming out from him. Utilizing that Blink Dagger, so 9 minutes on the mark. Excellent initiation coming in from him. What is love? Gonna be very cautious as Adobe Reader to scout him out. Easy peasy, taking a fair amount of harassment damage. Gonna lose most of his refraction charges. One more orb coming out from Happy. Purge off all his refraction charges. Leave him quite vulnerable. Looks like we are going to be seeing counter initiation coming through as Carry Me Senpai. Blink dodges. They could have actually chosen to fight that. He does steal that Sandstorm. Unfortunately, he wanted that Burrow Strike. Carry Me Senpai going to be caught by that Burrow Strike in Seb+Co. Adobe Reader is going to be eating that Battle Hunger. What does love? Should be taking death as Happy. A few more right clicks. Omni Slash being used meanwhile. Cleans up, I believe, my documents. And Hugh Janus. Massive black hole. But never mind the black hole. The Ravage comes out. Duel's going to bring down Carry Me Senpai. Fucking Damo. Turning the engagement. Happy takes a death. There's a few more right clicks coming in from Desky's able to clean him out. Like Hugh Janus down his ground. One more Arcane Bolt would be enough to be able to finish off. Desky, but Desky pops that time lapse and stand-in bubble gun. Could be taking a death if he's not too careful. Easy peasy. Choosing to dive. He's got that refraction available. Throws out the overwhelming ult to provide some covering fire. Bubble gun. He's got press the attacks. He's going to be forced to use it to provide himself a bit more buffer against the Weaver, especially since Weaver's hot on his trails. Chewy, forced to back away. Doesn't have enough mana to be able to keep chasing, especially since he doesn't have that Blade Fury available. He's actually going to be having something like a 12-minute Aghanim Scepter on that Juggernaut at the rate that he's farming. So fantastic performance coming out from Chewy. What is love? Unfortunately, got torn to pieces very early on in that engagement. I believe he took a death, yeah. And so him and Carry Me Senpai not really able to have too much of an impact to the duels that will lock out the axe. Carry Me Senpai, unfortunately, just got caught by the back end. The W Reader, that was without the epicenter. Had there been an epicenter, things can be completely different. Carry Me Senpai, good initiation. One more right click dunk. Not even needed, as looks like the counter helix kills him in time. And he also steals the Burrow Strike. Burrow Strike is one of the best abilities a Ruby could steal, because it gives you more escape mech. It gives you an escape mech, which you so desperately need. And gives you one of the best AoE stuns in the game. Burrow Strike, because it's got 0 cast point, because it also repositions yourself. It's actually one of the best, if not the best, non-ultimate AoE stun in the game, because it provides you such a massive amount of utility, especially if you can hit more than one hero with it. Happy, looks like he's going to be the mech carrier for his team. Also went for a Bottle. Not really a big fan of Bottle on the Viper. I personally think it's a massive misbuild coming out from Happy. Just because Viper's a very inefficient Bottle carrier. You're not going to be roaming and ganking as Viper. You're going to be counter-initiating and responding to ganks through TP. If you are ganking a lane, you're going to be TPing into a lane. You don't actually want to walk there, because you're a very slow hero and it does waste a lot of time. You want to sit in the mid lane until you get your mech. Especially when you're dealing with a Templar, you want to be exactly what the Templar is. You just want to, your sole job is to be a huge cockblock the Templar, shut down easy peasy, and keep shutting him down over and over again until he becomes a complete non-entity and becomes completely ineffective and irrelevant in this game. If you're not able to do that, then the Templar Assassin's going to walk over the rest of your team. And since you're more of an anti-carry hero than a carry hero yourself, Chewy could be taking a death if he's not too careful. Fucking Damo unfortunately doesn't have the Ravage available. Chewy walks in, secures the tower, doesn't have the mana to be able to use the Blade Dance. Or the Blade Fury. He's got the 12-minute Aghanim Scepter, so right on timing for him. And with that, every single time that ultimate is available, they're going to look to take a fight. Deski, caught with the Viper Strike, should be taking death. He's got the time lapse, he's able to use it to keep himself alive for now, just barely able to disengage. As it looks like Damo didn't have that Ravage available. That would have been a very worthwhile Ravage. Unfortunately, no efforts in it being used. So 12-minute Aghanim Scepter coming online for Juggernaut. This is the appropriate time to build Aghanim Scepter. You need to rush the item as your first big item. You need to get it very early on, because it's an item that tapers off very quickly. It's incredibly effective in the first 30 minutes. Past that point, it does taper off quite quickly, just because you actually get more slashes by building other items. Mask of Madness, for instance, will give you the same amount of slashes as the Aghanim Scepter. So that's the reason why Juggernaut's been trending so heavily. Because when you activate the Mask of Madness, you get 2 slashes with the level 1 Omni Slash, or 2.5. So I suppose it's just 2 slashes, and with the level 2 Omni Slash, you're actually getting 5 to 6 more slashes. 6 if you've got another Agi item like a Yasha, otherwise you're getting 5 free slashes, so 11 slashes, the Omni Slash. Whereas with the Aghanim Scepter now, he's basically getting the same amount, although the difference with the Aghanim Scepter, I suppose, is you get more coded slashes, and each coded slash does 225 to 275 damage, so it does, I suppose, give you more overall damage going for the Ags. But the issue with the Aghanim Scepter is it turns into a one-trick pony. All your damage is coming in from your Blade Fury and Multi Slash. Outside of them, you're not really going to be able to do too much. Bubblegum can be taking Omni Slash there, should be taking a death. Also, he kills his creeps, and Chewy off to a pretty good start. Good recognition coming out from him. Could have been a little bit quicker on the gun, just in case if the Legion Commander actually could have blinked out there. He had about 1.5 seconds to be able to just blink dodge here. So you want to be, you can only blink in the direction you're facing if you want that 0 cast point. Could have actually saved his life, because it could have prevented Jonah from being an Omni Slashing, but otherwise good performance coming from Chewy, making sure they keep the Legion Commander shut down, just because Legion Commander highly dependent on snowballing. Although that being said, it looks like Bubblegum has picked up his Blink Dagger, so that's pretty standard timing for the Legion Commander. Could have been a little bit faster, but he has taken a few deaths. Carry Me Senpai, looks like he's going to be going towards the Vanguard. I sure as hell hope he's going towards Crimson Guard. Just the naked Vanguard on Axe is absolutely awful, because it doesn't really give you that much value past the 20-minute mark. And Axe, you really need to stress the first 20 minutes. And if you're going to be going towards the Vanguard, it does provide you lots of viability, but you really need to be playing a lot more aggressively as the Axe. You want to go for items that will give you more aggressive capability, or will give you more scaling defensive capability, such as Blade Mail. Or even something like an Aghanim Scepter, because you've already got the Omni Slash that's been upgraded. Having an Aghanim Scepter on Axe this early on will be absolutely game-breaking, because it's a free level up on your Cunning Blade. It does drastically increase your kill power against heroes like Hugh Janus. If he's below half HP, he instantly dies, just because he's got 700 HP, and the Aghanim Scepter level 1 ultimate buffs the kill range to 350. Happy could be taking a death there, pops that mech charge, not going to be enough. That Aghanim Scepter really paying out quite nicely on NT. So long as they're able to take that tier 2 tower, they really should look to group, take that tower. You've got the level 1 healing ward, should really opt to go for the second point in healing ward, and then choose to max out Blade Guards. Second point's the most efficient point on the healing ward, because the first point will only heal you for about 50% HP. Second point in the healing ward heals you to about 83% or 84%, and the third point will heal you to 113%. The 113% is overhealed, so you don't really need third or fourth point. It's nice in team fights, I suppose, if you're able to micro it, but otherwise, as far as pushing is concerned, which is the primary use of the healing ward, doesn't really give you that much value. So going for the second point in healing ward, then choosing the double back into stats, or to max out the Blade Dance, that's the most conventional build, because it's the most cost effective. So you're getting the most bang for your buck, so every skill point you're expending's got immediate value. Bubblegum looked to go for some Blade Mail initiation with the duel, not being able to do so. Looks like healing ward's actually been dropped as Carrying Senpai, good 2-man initiation with the Blink Hole. But here comes the Ravage, as well as the counter Ravage coming out from What Is Love. What Is Love is able to steal it, returns it back against the face, fucking Damo takes death, lift into the air. Adobe Reader should be taking another death as well. Duel coming out against Bubblegum and Chewy, but Chewy should be able to smack him down. Bubblegum gets crit and takes the death, feeding that dual kill. And towards his hands, and Hugh Janus fleeing for his life. Deski might look to play very aggressively against Hugh Janus. Hugh Janus should be taking death as a blink easy peasy melt strike is enough to be the Melton. And Deski finds himself another kill. So I was talking about the greed of the Weaver, but this greed's been working out very nicely. Just because Seb+Co have been misplaying, they've been giving him a lot of free gold that he shouldn't have gotten. Sand King, because he hasn't been spending a lot of time in the jungle, because he's kind of been playing him as a ganking support that hasn't really been too effective with his ganks, nowhere near the Blink Dagger. And so now Sand King's become a non-entity. This is the reason why when Sand King's picked up, you go boots first on Sand King. That's why you go for 2 points in Sandstorm at level 3, so you can sack and clear out these jungle camps, so that way, when the time comes for these early skirmishes, you've got a Blink Dagger. Because if you don't have a Blink Dagger, you're not ever getting off a good Epicenter. Or if you do, it's going to be because the enemy team makes a massive misplay as opposed to anything else, and you never want to draft a lineup or make decisions on that dependent on the enemy team making mistakes. You always want to make sure that you're the ones that have the momentum, that have control of the situation. We're going to be seeing Treads pick up coming out from Templar Assassins. It's easy peasy, went for that Blink Dagger. Utilizing that Blink Dagger to good effect. Actually very surprised he went Treads. Usually if you see someone go Blink Dagger on Templar Assassin, they've already gone phase. It looks like easy peasy off this free gold that he was able to receive from the last few fights. Had enough gold to be able to pick up that Blink Dagger. Was Use that to good effect, so he secured that final kill on Huge Janus. And Chewy might be the final solo kill against Bubblegum if he's able to close the distance. Unfortunately, one of the nerfs to the Juggernaut is the fact that the Omni-Slash range is now 350. Looks like he's actually going towards what appears to be a Butterfly. This is a massive mistake coming out from Chewy. When you go for the Aghanim Scepter build, you want to go for cost-effective mid-game items, such as Drums of Endurance or the Yasha. Yasha is usually considered a farming item, but on Juggernaut, because you usually have pretty mediocre time on target, it's quite effective. Adobe Reader should be taking a death there. The Omni Slash will be enough to bring him down. He unfortunately reveals himself and is able to Barrow Strike himself to safety. Good recognition coming out from him. Bugs are now going to be coming out from Desky. Does catch on the Adobe Reader, and Adobe Reader could be taking a death if he's not too careful. Doesn't have the Barrow Strike available for one more second. Carry me, Senpai. Good misplay coming out from him. Unfortunately, misses the dunk, and that's going to really set back his team. You really need to land every single dunk. That's pretty much the #1 rule of Axe, just because you needed to set up other kills. Looks like Carry Me Senpai. Somebody's actually picked up a medallion card. Weaver's actually picked up a medallion. Good recognition coming out from him. Adobe Reader panics, throws at the epicenter, not able to do anything with that. That's why you need that blink. If he had that blink, it actually could have turned things around. Would have been able to kill What Is Love, especially with some follow through. Looks like What Is Love still has that stolen Ravage that will be wearing off very soon. He can actually choose to Ravage the ground before that wears off, just for the coolness factor. But it looks like next tier they are looking to take Roshan. They should be able to do so. As Seb+Co, the only response they have for Roshan is going to be a Blink Ravage coming up from fucking Demo. But at the moment, they don't have any vision of this. Actually, never mind, they do have vision. They should know this is happening. They should look to contest this right now. They can't afford to give away F3 Roshan into the lineup from next tier. Desky really don't like the Poor Man Shield. Poor Man Shield's a worthless pickup on ranged heroes. You get more survivability and more EHP by going for the Ring of Aquila instead. Ring of Aquila is also very powerful. You kind of need a Ring of Aquila on Weaver because you don't have enough mana regen. Otherwise, and you really are going to be spamming out the Sakuchi as well as the Swarm every time you get the opportunity. Bubblegum can be taking a death there. Looks like the Berserk's call into the dunk. Unfortunately, Carry Me Senpai not able to dunk him in time. Really do hope he's going for that Crimson Guard, just because Crimson Guard's a very effective pickup in the first 20 to 30 minutes. You're able to, especially since he's going to be finishing by the 20-minute mark, or at least the 22-minute mark. Happy? Playing a little bit too aggressively there, just because NT Chewy. He's got that Aghanim Scepter as well as the Omni Slash available, carrying his Senpai. Play out that creep wave and Chewy. So he's just going to hold on to his gold and go right towards the Butterfly. The reason why Butterfly is not really a good item in this case is you're spending so much gold getting it that by the time you get it, you already missed a massive window. When you go for the Aghanim Scepter, you want to close the game in the first 30 minutes, and so you need to build very cost-effective mid-game items. You don't want to go for an ultra-luxury late-game item just because you're not going to be able to end the game at that point. Then Chewy, massive misplay coming up from him. He's going to be taking a free death for nothing. Fucking Dama goes in with a Blink Ravage, catches out 3. Looks like Desky could be taking a death there, but once again, throws the Ravage back into What Is Love, and the ping's immediately coming through. Easy Peasy's going to be taking a death, carrying this as Bubblegum, and will tone things around. Ravage now comes through from What Is Love. I'm going to bring down Adobe Reader, and turnaround plays coming out from both teams. Huge Janus fleeing for his life, should be the disengage. Looks like Adobe Reader did buy back. Looks like the tower right clicks will bring down What Is Love. So after a fantastic counter Ravage from him, fortunately the tower's going to be what brings him down. So misplays upon misplays coming out from both teams, just barely keeping Seb+Co in this game, as if they did win that. Actually, that gives them a massive amount of gold and experience. It's quite a decisive loss for the boys in next tier, as the gold lead now stabilizes, the experience lead now stabilizes at 15k, and the gold lead going to stabilize at probably about 16k, right there it's going. So Happy now got the treads flying towards him, so Happy's off to an awful start. So this is a matchup that he should have had a decisive advantage in. This is usually why you want to go for more points. The Corrosive Skin, it gives you more defensive capability, especially if you're going for the mech, because you have so much built-in damage from the Nether Toxin. They are able to bring down Desky and burn off the edges. He should be able to disengage. They don't have enough follow-through damage to be able to catch him, deal with him, and he actually stands his ground. Desky playing way too aggressive, and unfortunately you can't purge off the Viper Strike, and that's actually what killed him there. Something you have to keep in mind, Viper Strike will persist everything, including time-lapse. Much like Rupture, Chewy could be taking a death if he's not too careful. Could turn around and actually throw out the Omni Slash. He should actually do so. There we go. Here comes the Omni Slash. Unfortunately, he turned around too late. Now most of it's going to bounce with the creep wave. Ensures that Bubblegum's able to keep himself alive. Now he's going to take a death. If he wanted to Omni Slash, he should have Omni Slashed immediately. Otherwise, spin back the hell out. Chewy's going to feed a death. And because he went for these momentum-based mid-game items, that's quite a significant loss. Next tier, they're actually posing some massive throws. 2k EXP that they've just thrown into the enemy team's hands. Was a 1.6k gold swing. As far as net worth is concerned, Carry Me Senpai, because he hasn't gone forward to Crimson Guard. I don't know what issue these players seem to have against going for a Crimson Guard, especially on Axe. Vanguard, especially at the 20-minute mark, now provides you absolutely nothing. Congratulations, you've spent 2,000 gold on an item that gives you very little benefit. You get more EHP by building a mech. That mech actually scales into the late game. Going towards something like a Crimson Guard actually provides you a massive amount of survivability, just because Legion Commander, she's dependent on her right-click damage. And so Crimson Guard provides that buffer to ensure that if you duel somebody else, they're going to stay alive for as long as possible. It means that she's not going to get that successful duel off, and that's going to delay her snowball. Because if the game goes late, Seb+Co, although that being said, I suppose next tier they've got more carriers than Seb+Co. Seb+Co do still have the potential to turn this around in the mid game, just because next tier, the only way that Seb+Co can win this is if next tier keeps throwing fights like this, and the way they lead, is because the way the gold bounty is concerned, every time you take a death, it's calculated off the disparity in net worth. So because there's about a 13k gold lead going to the hand to Seb+Co, if all 5 of them get wiped, I believe that's throwing about 6 to 7k gold into the hands of Seb+Co. As far as EXP is concerned, they're going to be feeding about 7 to 8k experience. That's pretty much equalizes the lead. The experience is going to be quite a decisive factor. Looks like Karimi Senpai is going towards that pipe. The pipe does make a lot of sense because you've got the Mystic Flare coming online from the Skywrath Mage, but the mech is always going to be more important. Mech provides you more EHP than the pipe. Good blink grab coming through. Unfortunately, it's going to be destroyed by the vast majority of the heroes. And what is love? Once again, the MVP of these fights steals it, returns against 4. Bubblegum going in for a duel against Karimi Senpai. Karimi Senpai keeps himself alive for now. W really going to be fleeing for his life as What is Love smacks him down. Karimi Senpai dunks him. And with that, Seb+Co, disastrous fight. Fucking Damo unfortunately didn't catch the Rubik. His sole objective every single fight is to ravage Rubik. If you can't ravage Rubik, you might as well not ravage. Because your team is going to eat that retaliatory ravage, and that's going to wreck them. Because you can't account for your, especially with the lineup they've drafted, you can't account for that retaliation ravage. You don't have a lineup that can fight well against ravage. Now forcing 2 buybacks for fucking Damo, he's completely useless because he doesn't have that ravage, and Tide is first and foremost a ravage delivery system. It does force the retreat coming out from the boys next year, but they're going to look to start farming the enemy ancients and back themselves away. They just realize that they know that they can afford to play greedy like this. They know that because they've forced the buyback, there's no point in continuing the fight. They probably could have at least done a bit more damage to that tier 3, just because fucking Damo is pretty much a non-entity until he gets that ravage. He still can provide that gush in conjunction with Happy, so Happy's going to be the critical buyback here. Looks like he's actually choosing to go for the BKB, so it really does make a lot of sense. The BKB provides you a massive amount of headers against next tier's lineup. Although that being said, actually come to think of it, the BKB pickup's fairly ineffective, because the Berserker's Call will go through it, Omnislash goes through it, Templar Assassin with the Meld goes through it, and Weaver goes through it. So actually the BKB is going to be a wasted pickup, so I'm assuming that's going to be the Aghanim Scepter coming out from Happy, much more effective pickup for him. Otherwise, you could even choose to go for something like a Sergeant of Heaven's Hellbird, that could try to disarm the Templar Assassin, or try to disarm the Juggernaut, although Juggernaut can purge it off with the Blade Fury. Desky, he's going towards the BKB, that's a much more effective BKB pickup, because you've got the Ravage coming in from Tide. Best way to counteract Tide is pick up multiple BKBs, so 2-3 BKBs on your core heroes, and then Tide's Ravage is suddenly completely useless. NT Chewy still going in towards that Butterfly. The reason why I'm not a big fan of Butterfly, especially this early on, is it's an exponential DPS item. It amplifies the damage of your next item. It's not in itself a very cost-effective damage item, because as far as damage for Agi is concerned, Diffusal Blade level 2 actually gives you a lot more damage, a lot more agility than the Butterfly, and that costs about 1.9k less. And that's actually quite effective pickup on Juggernaut because it gives you more chase, it gives you the ability to purge off Ghost Scepters, since otherwise Omnislash will be completely countered by the Ghost Scepter, and it gives you fantastic chase capability outside of your outside of your Omnislash. And so NT Chewy, really inefficient item pickup with the Butterfly. Also could have gone for the Manta Style, since you can activate the Manta Style to help you push. Manta Style is not too bad in Juggernaut because your illusions do propagate that crit. Or it could have even chosen to go for Sanjay Yasha. Even Sanjay Yasha would be a much more effective pickup than the Butterfly at this point, just because by the time he finishes it, not going to be a very critical item. Then this team is going to say, hey, we finished the Butterfly, we can fight now. It's not that good of an item until you pick up another damage item. If the game does go late enough that you can pick up another item, then the Butterfly becomes worthwhile. But in that case, you might as well save your gold, pick up another cost-effective immediate item, like the Diffusal Blade level 2, and then build the Butterfly after that. That's what I mean by item optimization being such a critical factor. Karimi Senpai, unfortunately, whipping that Blink Berserker's Call, What is Love, goes in for a good counter ravage. Fucking Damo now turns things around, catching out 4 heroes. It looks like 2 BKBs coming alive for Easy Peasy and Desky. FSS gonna fly through as well. Fucking Damo's gonna take a death to the Omni Slash. Looks like the BKB from Easy Peasy and Desky saving them through that fight. And Karimi Senpai doesn't really give a damn because he's got the healing, will healing him back up to full. They should be able to take that first to the racks. NT Chewy, defending his Blade Drain just cause at that point. Bubblegum gonna look to stand his ground with the overwhelming odds. Not gonna be able to deal enough to be able to prevent this push. Hugh Janus spamming out the concussive shot. Concussive shot, you never use it for the damage, it's there for the snare. So Hugh Janus kind of just panicking there, throwing out the concussive shot. They are backing away though. The boys next tier, they're playing it softly, slowly. We now have the Butterfly coming alive for Chewy. The next damage item he picks up will be drastically amplified by that, just because Butterfly, the real purpose of the Butterfly is it gives you 60% attack speed and 30 damage in the evasion. The evasion at this point isn't really going to be the make or break point, because you're already winning a right-click war against any of these carries anyway, so you don't actually need the Butterfly this early on, whereas if you picked it up much later, it forces the enemy carry to have to go for an MKB, because at that point, a third of that damage is being evaded. So in this case, you'd be better off, if you wanted to build more slashes, going for a Molnir would actually give you, drastically amplify your Omni Slash damage output. If you wanted to go for more pushing power, Desolator would be much more cost effective. If you just wanted to go for raw agi and raw damage, then go for Diffusal Blade level 2, gives you much more damage for Goldsman than the Butterfly itself. So that's why I keep harping on the Butterfly pickup coming from Chewy. You always want to make sure, especially when you're playing the one position carry, that every single item you build and every single skill point that you expend is going to be helping out your team, and it's going to be helping out with your team strategy. So in this case, because I've got a very mid-game oriented lineup that can go late, and since he went for the Agnum Scepter, once you go for the Agnum Scepter, you're sort of hedged into going towards these mid-game items. There's no point in going for an Agnum Scepter and then doubling back and saying, hang on, let's go for a late-game item, because that defies the purpose of the first item. If you go for an Ags, you want to end the game early, so you want to build items that give you immediate impact. Otherwise, if you don't build the Ags, and you go for much more hard carry items, then there's no point in going for an item like the Agnum Scepter at all. You want to go for something like a Molnir or a Manstel or a Yasha early on as a farming Yasha. Going to provide you a lot more cost-effective benefit, just because your team is expending so many resources into making sure you get that farm, that if you squander that farm and go for an ineffective pickup, that could potentially throw the game. The example of this is the 85-minute game I casted for the Group A playoffs. I can't actually remember the teams now, it's been such a long day, but despite the superior draft coming out and the superior Dusa carry, the fact that Dusa went for ineffective carry items really threw the game for them. They actually should have won that game, even though they were about 20 to 25k gold behind. They could have actually turned it, but had Dusa went for bad items, and because she went for bad items, didn't really have that much impact. Game number 1, I believe it was Nigerian. Every single game casted with Nigerian today, he's been going for ineffective pickups, and as a result of those ineffective item choices, his team has been losing, because they really need that one position player to be able to pick up those reactive items that can provide that immediate benefit. Above, more than any other role, the one position player is always going to be the most reactive, because your item choices and your decision making has to react to the choices being made by the enemy team, and so you always have to keep in mind who you're playing with, who you're playing against, what the state of the game is, and what your game plan is. If you want to end the game early, you build items that help you end the game early. Cammy Senpai gets a good 2-man Berserker's Call, gets caught by that Bar Strike, but should be able to bring down one hero. Fucking Damage goes with the Ravage, catches out 2, that should be stolen very shortly. Not gonna be stolen, looks like he actually went for a fairly ineffective pickup with the Ultimate Orb. They are able to clean up 2 as Desky gonna go ham. Looks like he is actually stealing that Epicenter, and so it looks like Rubik's gonna channel that Epicenter. Looks to play very aggressively against Adobe Rita, though unfortunately everybody's disengaged by now. Well, there's love, should be taking death as happy, cleans him out. Desky actually fleeing for his life, and looks like the boys from Seb+Co, they're turning it just because while this is happening, easy peasy. Like some split push in the top lane, looks like Chewy wasn't able to get off his Omni Slash, so easy peasy, not there in the fight, could actually choose to continue hitting that tower and back away when he knows that they're coming in, because he's kind of squandered that advantage they had. Looks like he's now got that Desolator, with Agnum Scepter coming online for Happy, and looks like the Rod of Aoi coming online for Hugh Janus, so that's quite a critical pickup on the Skywrath Mage, because it lets you kill targets on your own. You can Cuss Off Shot, cripple them, and then you drop the Mystic Flare. There's no way they're going to escape that Mystic Flare without eating all the damage, and with the Ancient Seal and the Arcane Bolt follow through, you should be able to deal enough damage to be the pick. So it translates Skywrath Mage into basically another core hero as far as damage is concerned. I'm going to quickly nip off to the bathroom and be right back. Right, looks like I came back just in time for the final engagement coming up from the boys in the next tier. They are looking to group up in the mid lane. They do have everything they need to try to breach high ground, especially with the Desolator pickup coming out from Easy Peasy. That's going to be the critical item for them that lets them pick off targets quite quickly. Bubblegun looks like he should be looking to go forward to the Blade Veil. It's going to be the most cost-effective pickup for the Legion Commander. It looks like she opted to go for the Assault Cross and the Maelstrom instead. Not the most effective pickups in the Legion Commander, especially since you're playing from behind. Carrying Me Senpai, unfortunately, calls the ground once again. Gonna be eating a little bit of damage coming from Hugh Janus, constantly using the Battle Hunger on him. Fucking Damo wants to go in for the Ravage, unfortunately not able to do so. Actually opted to go for the Ultimate Orb, just noticed this earlier in the fight. I suppose he wanted to go for something like a Sheepstick, otherwise Sheep's Guard probably be more worthwhile. Fucking Damo goes in for the Ravage, it's instantly gonna be countered by Desky being on target, and what is love as well. I believe he stole that Ravage, never mind, he got the Anchor Smash instead. Easy Peasy finds one Bubblegun, lifted up into the air, Berserker's Call, and looks like he should be getting dunked, especially with Easy Peasy smacking him down. Don't come through from him. Bar Strikers are coming out in the back line. Looks like Adobe Reader was actually able to pick off what is love. It's a good performance coming out from him. They are able to bring down Easy Peasy, so the Aegis is going to be expended. Looks like once again, no Omni Slash coming online from Chewy. So the Agnum Scepter is not really paying out there, the Butterfly is not paying out there, and Desky takes another death. And with that Seb+Co, they're actually standing their ground and doing quite nicely. These are fights they really shouldn't be winning, especially since fucking Dam's Ravage initiation. Desky popped a BKB in time, so in terms of experience. We have a look in terms of the fight recap. About a 2.2k gold swing, as well as a 3k EXP swing. The EXP, although I suppose at this point there's a 20k gold lead, and about a 13k EXP lead. Very difficult for Seb+Co to try to turn this, just because they've only taken 2 tier 1 towers. They still have tier 2s, top as well as a bottom lane to be the push through. Looks like we've got an initiation coming through from Karami Senpai. Catched out 3 with the Berserker's Call, and now he's being dueled though. Bubblegum unfortunately taking a lot of damage, and Easy Peasy stands his ground. Easy Peasy might be able to find one, but he's going to throw his own life away. It's the moment of courage, just keeping him alive for now. Easy Peasy, he finds one, but he throws his own life away, feeding it to Happy. Now we've got the response coming from Chewy. Chewy, there we go, that's the Omni Slash we needed. Should be able to find one. At least fucking damage could be taking a death there. There we go, Blade Fury finishes him off. Happy, fleeing for his life. Looks like he stole the Viper Strike, and Happy should be getting Viper Strike down by What Is Love. Is able to disengage pretty quickly though. What Is Love? Really chasing to make sure he can get that Viper Strike. If he lands it, then Happy should be taking a death. There we go, Blink comes in, there's the Viper Strike. And with that, Happy lift up the air should be taking a death from that. Looks like Hugh Janus took a huge amount of work against Chewy. Chewy eats a massive amount of damage from that Mystic Flares in conjunction with the Rod of Valley. Not going to be enough to be able to finish him off though. They do end that streak, which is quite a critical factor, so at least prevents Seb+Co from pushing further. That was the Omni Slash that Chewy's been waiting pretty much the entire game for. He might even consider going for a Blink Dagger at this point to guarantee you getting off that Omni Slash. The Omni Slash is going to be quite a critical pickup in these engagements because it lets you burst down one of the supports. And you being able to burst off, say, the Skywrath Mage at the start of a fight does give you quite a decisive advantage. It also does a massive amount of damage against much more tougher targets, like the Legion Commander, especially if she's about to duel somebody else. So Legion Commander, when you're playing Legion Commander from behind, the most cost-effective item build for Legion Commander is Blink Treads into the Blade Mail. The reason why Blade Mail is so effective is when you activate Duel, you force them to hit you. And so you're returning that damage back against you, so it means that if you're ahead, even better, you're dealing even more damage. If they're ahead, they're going to be returning so much damage back to themselves, it pretty much guarantees you killing them inside that duel. Because you've got Moment of Courage, so you can afford to tank the damage that comes up from them. And so Blade Mail is going to be it also dissuades the enemy team from actually prioritizing you. Because if they do focus fire you, as you pop on the duel, they're going to be forced to eat a lot of damage if they choose to turn against you. So it does provide you a massive amount of damage. It's going to be a lot more cost effective than going for something like Maelstrom into the Assault Cuirass. So carry me, Senpai. Going to be backing himself away. Looks like he's going to be looking to go for... He actually picked up Blade Mail of his own, so Blade Mail, not bad pickup on Axe. In this case, because you have the Pipe of Insight as well as the Blade Mail, not really going to be as effective just because you're not returning as much damage as you'd like. You usually don't want to Blade Mail when you Berserker's Call because it's the right-click damage coming out from them when they hit you, because you've got that plus 40 armor from the Berserker's Call. Doesn't actually return that much damage. What you probably want to do, though, is if you're initiating against heroes like the Skywrath Mage and you don't catch them the Berserker's Call, that's when you want to activate the Blade Mail, so that way if Hugh Janus pops that Mystic Flare, he's going to eat a huge amount of damage in return. So Chewy, looks like he actually went for the SNY, so this is the item he should have gone for before the Butterfly. Now he's picking that up. SNY is an item you want to get early on because it's very cost effective for its stats in the 20 to 30 minute mark, and that's if you want to end the game early. So he's got 2 items that are designed to end the game early and 1 item that's designed to take the game late. He's kind of going back and forth between these two schools of thought of trying to end the game early and trying to take the game late. And that is costing the rest of his team, just because in the last 2 engagements, the last 3 engagements, he only got the Omni Slash off in 1 of them. So he needs to hang back, if anything, and let Easy Peasy be the front line. Let them initiate on him, because he doesn't have a BKB, so fucking Damo's Ravage is really ruining him in these engagements. Fucking Damo looking to go on for the Ravage, not able to do so. It's good initiation coming from Carrying Senpai. Now pops the Blade Mail. We've got Juggernaut Omni Slash flying through. Should be able to bring down 1. Ravage flies through, catches out everybody. What is Love going to die to the Epicenter? Not able to steal the Ravage this time. Looks to go for the steal. Unfortunately, only steals the Gush. They are able to tone things though, as Easy Peasy brings down another one. Happy, last man standing. Buyback coming through from Hugh Janus. Carrying me Senpai, backing himself away to ensure that Happy's not just going to kill him there, especially Hugh Janus coming in from the side. 2 sets of racks going to line up for the next tier, and this should be game, set, and match for them. Seb+Co, they've expended buyback. The only hero that's left alive that could effectively fight is going to be the Viper. They don't have Ravage, which is going to be the critical factor. And Easy Peasy, 1 more Reckler coming in from him should be enough. He does eat a huge amount of damage from Hugh Janus. Hugh Janus is doing a lot of work in these engagements. What is Love gets cleaned out by Happy, but they should be to take out Mega Creeps. And with that, very difficult for the Seb+Co to be able to respond. Just because you don't have a hero that could clear out these creep waves, especially with the Mega Creeps pushing in, and GG's going to be called. So that should be it for today, round number 5. Next year, they will be advancing into the next stage, alongside, I believe it was Not Ozdotes, the other team. Actually, could have been Ozdotes. So Ozdotes as well as next tier, they're going to be the ones advancing through into the next stage. That should be it for today. We will be playing 2 games of Group C tomorrow, I believe 6 PM and 7 PM. But otherwise, that should be it for now. Thank you for watching. As always, you can feel free to follow me on Twitch or otherwise on Twitter at 49coder. But other than that, that should be it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more tomorrow.